Okay, so I'm presenting on requesting JSON files with AJAX. Right here, I've got my example code. That's a simple program that requests a separate AJAX file, or a separate text file that contains an AJAX object or a JSON object. So I've got the JSON object right here, which is just my name, my age, and my home city. And I've got this program that creates a variable that's an XML HTTP request. Then I call that variable. And then I make a new empty object for use later. So so this right here, if it checks to see if the variable here is ready. If it checks the ready state and the status to see whether or not it collected the information successfully with the variable.open and the variable.send. So here's the reference to the file that it's getting. And then it assigns, it takes the this dot response text, which is the thing it gets from the this file here, and parses the JSON object and puts the result into object, and then it just checks. It just takes the attribute it got, or the object it got, and takes the name attribute and puts it in the document. Here is the program on the site. Click this button. And it returns the name from the object. So that's a simple example of how you use AJAX to request a JSON file. Any questions?
Very cool. Yeah, it's awesome. Anybody else have any questions for Maxwell?
I've got like a leading question, I guess. Just to, the whole elephant in the room thing about AJAX. That code is not guaranteed to execute in a particular order, right? Because it is asynchronous.
Yeah, I think.
So, like, if you had statements after that, they may execute before that function was finished.
Yeah, the
right?
Asynchronous, I think, depends on whether this is true or false.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't remember how that worked. Yeah, I think you can set it to be asynchronous or not asynchronous. I don't remember which one was which.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, it can do it in a different order, depending on whether. Any other questions?
Cool. Well, Maxwell, if you don't mind, I'll just show you guys what I've been mostly working on today, and I was trying to then incorporate an example for the topic that I was going to teach. But unfortunately, with life, there's just not enough time. So I'll just show you what I was able to accomplish. Let's see here. So I'm consuming an API using Ajax. I just have a button that's wired up to call this function. It retrieves a movie title that's input by the user inside of an input element. And then I parse the JSON, and then basically the API would give you, they have documentation often that will explain to you the references that you need to use in order to get what you want. So for example, I have to incorporate this specific path along with the poster path that I'm receiving from this JSON object. And then down here, obviously, with my URL, my request, I have to incorporate an API key that I had to just basically sign up for. It's a free thing. I signed up through MovieDB, and then they give you an API key, and you have to incorporate that so that you can access the data you want. So in action, it's not pretty right now. So you guys want to give me a movie name?
Casablanca, of course.
Casablanca.
Nice.
And now we have the movie poster.
You get an A.
Sweet, man. Very nice.
Yeah. So my goal is to turn it into some transitions that then basically do some really cool CSS transitions that basically give you other information. So you'll have other buttons for, you know, basically an overview of the movie. It gives you a description of what the movie's about, and another button that will transition some element that contains popularity votes and other data that I can consume through this API. So basically the API documentation is here. So I'm trying to show you the API, or excuse me, the JSON file itself, if I can. So yeah, it kind of looks like gobbledygook right now. But essentially,
If you paste that into Atom, you can reformat it. I believe. Oh, that was Mitchell that had Atom up and running. It'll reformat it nicely. Oh, you've got Atom too. Okay.
yeah, I've got Adam. If I pay, you saying, you're saying if I just copy and paste.
Yeah, if you create a new file and name it .json, and then beautify it. I do it all the time.
And is that a package you download to beautify it, or?
Oh, you don't have? Yeah, I think it is. If you don't have,
it's a package I'd have to download. Basically,
okay.
the where do I have it? I have it where it's displaying it nicely for the particular movie. Basically, the website that I got this API from will give you basically let you test things. Anyway, if you can try and configure this, or at least try to understand it, you'll see like backdrop path here, a popularity object here, original language object, original title object. Basically,
it's pretty extensive.
You want. What's that?
It's pretty extensive. They have quite a lot on the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, so like a release date. So whatever type of information you're wanting, um, you can essentially just incorporate it here. And they use the object as results. So then the results, whichever result you want, which is typically you want the first one that shows up. 'Cause sometimes if you type in a movie title, you'll get multiple results. Like if you just type in Batman, you'll get several results of different movies. And so typically you just want to refer to the first one.
Cool.
And then you just receive whatever attribute you want. So yeah, back to what I was originally supposed to talk about. If I come here. So I found this really cool blog, and I was, using it to kind of help me understand a little bit more about transitions and things of that nature. And I was going to then incorporate my own transitions into my project, and it didn't really have enough time to do that. So I apologize. Hopefully we'll have an example for you sometime later this evening. But basically, this person gives you a bunch of examples of different types of transitions. And its transitions basically have an effect on transforms that that make it more smooth, more gradual, and you can change the interval times. So if you look here, when you hover over the wrap class object, which she has here as the entire wrapper div, if you hover over that, the transformation that occurs is it grows, so the scale by 2, and then she defines the transition for the individual objects, individual elements themselves. So she has 2 classes here for these divs that contain these circles. And so when you hover, so you have this box, you have the box class, right, which contains your circles. And then when you hover over the wrap element, the transition will occur on the same element because box and box 1 are located within the same element. And she's changed the interval time for each one. So what's really cool is that there's just so many different things that you can do with these transitions. So you hover over these, each one of these respond differently. Linear would be one of the transitions that she is calling there. Ease in, ease out, ease in and out. Cubic, I don't even know how to say that word. Anyway, they all have different effects. And what's really nice is that you can then in your JavaScript assign a class to an element by either at the time of creation of the element, so document.create element, something like this. So you can create your element here, and then you can establish the class list there. You can also do the same thing by removing remove, right? Okay. Basically, you can add it and remove it depending on how you want that to respond. But basically, she has these really cool effects that What's nice about transitions too is that they go in reverse order. I think Dan may have touched on that a little bit.
Yeah,
So when you hover over it, transitions, right? And then when you remove, they go in reverse. And they transition smoothly in reverse. So there's just a bunch of different things that you can do. I really like this. This one she did some really cool stuff here. You hover over this and it rotates. And if you look at her setting, she's rotating it 1080 degrees. So it's just this constant spin to the point. And then it reverses back to translate. Another one of those transform methods.
Yeah, CodePen's pretty amazing tool.
Yeah, CodePen's wonderful. This is kind of cool. You're gonna have to follow this around to keep it going.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, pretty responsive. Yeah, if you're having a creative block, um, which I often do, I have a hard time thinking about really cool, creative ways to do things. I don't suggest copying, wholesale copying the code, of course, but just ideas on different types of transitions that you can do. CodePen is wonderful. CodePen's like this open source library repository of all these different ideas that people have put together. And so if you're looking for certain transitions or certain things that you can do, you can get cool ideas from that. Like I said, don't wholesale copy anything, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions about that stuff?
No, I like that blog though.
Yeah, I like this one too. It's it's got it's kind of a good one-stop resource for different transition properties.
I like the format of it. Like she's got the CodePen like embedded right there, so you can list a topic and show your skills in it or whatever right there, all in line.
Yeah, and you can even edit this stuff too. So
yeah,
you can, well, at least you can straight from CodePen. So if you go straight to the CodePen, you can edit whatever you want.
Right.
Make it do whatever you want.
Very nice.
Any questions about the transitions? Yeah, so basically to trigger them, you're just going to, to trigger them, you can add them to whatever element you wish. And then basically you define the element that you want the action to take place on, and then whatever element is receiving that transform.
So you would typically do that like on an event?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, on an event. And what's interesting, I think she has examples. I thought there were more than just hover, but you can do that on almost. I think you can do that on any type of event. Yeah, any type of event that you'd like the transition to occur on, you can define it and trigger it that way. So that's pretty much it. You guys have any questions?
So with the transitions, you can have it so when you mouse over something, it moves one way, mouse back, it moves the other way. Is it possible to have it only transition one way? So you mouse over it, it gets bigger, and you put the mouse off of it, and it instantly gets smaller? Is that possible?
That's a really good question.
Do you mind if I answer?
Yeah, please.
You can do that if you're using the CSS events on Hover and stuff, it's going to always revert back. But you can use JavaScript you can add a class to an element, and that class will specify an animation. And so when you add the class to that element, it will perform the animation, and it's locked in there as long as that class is associated with the element. You take the class out of there, and
that
then
makes sense.
the element will revert back.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
I
yeah.
have some code examples. I'll try and spend a few hours this weekend on providing y'all with. I don't like to give too many code examples until you've had plenty of time to experiment. And I've got some examples where the hover works because of the CSS, and I have it also where you can trigger it with JavaScript, and it's good to know how to do it both ways.
All right. Well, thank you for providing us with that. It'll be nice to be able to see.
Yeah, and I'll even send you guys this. In case you want to look that over.
If I may, if you're wrapped up with what you were going to present there,
Yes, sir.
Any questions I can answer while I'm hanging out with you?
I have one that's a little off these topics, but for one of my demo pages or whatever, I want to do some animation using Canvas for two-dimensional animation, and I was just wondering, I'm having a little trouble just conceptualizing the granularity of the objects, and like if I can redraw like a sprite or have that interact with other sprites for like edge detection and collisions and things like that. Is that something that can be done in Canvas?
You can. You have to manage it all yourself. You have to be aware of the actual dimensions of your sprite.
Okay.
So that when it gets close to the other one, you detect the bumping into the other guy. So yeah, it's all possible. Canvas, you've got total control, which is good and bad.
Okay.
And you have to be aware of a lot more.
And do you think that there's a more efficient way to do that, or is Canvas kind of the only way to go?
So these are specific. These are sprites that have a unique shape. They're not boring like a square or a circle.
So right now it's kind of in conjunction with sort of a game. So it'd be a circle with a letter in it, sort of like a bubble with a letter in it.
Oh, okay.
So I want to animate that and have it float freely in the environment and hit edges and bounce off of other bubbles. Mm-hmm.
I have some code that does does quite a bit of that. It uses 2D, and it builds randomly sized bubbles, and they bump into each other. It's not. Is that using Canvas? I'm trying to think. No, that can't. Yeah, it must be Canvas. I'll have to look at the code. Who's talking here? I can't.
This is Dan.
Dan. What's your last name, Dan?
McDaniel.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Dan, send me an email tomorrow and say, Brother James, send me that bubble code.
Okay. Right on.
And I teach at an IT school.
Okay.
And that's one of the examples that we have when we do an open house. It is something they can manipulate and change colors and change the number of bubbles that appear when you click on the screen.
Nice.
I'll give it to you, and you can see if that helps you at all.
Yeah, I think that would really be helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anything else for me?
I don't think so on my end. Anybody?
All right.
We're good.
All right. It's 10:50 here in Texas, so I'm going to go read my scriptures.
Right on.
I'm going to finish reading Elder